Okay, guys, we are super excited for the show today. We have Dr. Graham. For the show, it's going to be just Kirsten, and she's going to talk to us all about turtles, her passion. We're going to touch on history, and she's a veterinarian by trade, but talk about the Turtle Conservatory, how to help turtles, certain stories, and it is a passion project of hers. And it's a very, very exciting conversation. So we are going to just jump right in and talk, okay? And second thing, too, she looks great, all right? She wasn't sure she was going to be on video today, so I think we surprised her. But she's been a good sport for us. So you guys are going to want to listen up because it is fascinating.
Just listen to what I say. Don't look at me.
Don't look at my face. Yeah. So tell us, okay, I guess first, where are you from?
I grew up in Guelph.
Yeah.
And obviously I live in Rockwood now. Mm-hmm. Spent 6 years at Kingston and at Queen's University, but other than that, Guelph.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's Rockwood. She's actually a neighbor of mine.
Mm-hmm.
She's married to Tim May, and we're trying to get him on here too, but he's a little bit more gun shy. Mm-hmm. So you're currently in Rockwood. You went to Queen's. And then from there, where'd you go?
I came back to Guelph for vet school, 4 years of vet school. So 6 years at Queen's and then back to Guelph.
Yeah.
And I met Tim at the very end of vet school and worked up in the Mildmay area for a year and then moved into like the farm where Tim is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then with your practice now, tell us what you're doing now, because that's another episode that's gonna happen. I promise you, but tell us.
I'm wearing a lot of hats right now. So I started my own mobile practice about 3 years ago, and all I do is weight loss in dogs and cats. It was the first practice of its kind in Ontario, and believe it or not, there's a lot of dogs and cats out there that need my help. So I'm doing that, and then I'm also working on contract for a mobile in-home euthanasia practice out of Guelph called Peaceful Passing.
Okay, so I guess I'll touch on the weight loss thing. So for me, okay, it's like bizarre, okay, because I've never even heard about it. I know we have, vets and they look after our pets, but I never. It's like a personal trainer for cats and dogs, or tell us a little bit about more.
It's more of a nutrition consultant for dogs and cats. I don't do the exercise side of it. Okay. And with animals in particular, the most impactful thing you can do for weight loss with them is change their food and feed it accurately. So I focus on the nutrition side of it. But then, yes, there are physiotherapists and rehab therapists for dogs and cats as well, which are not my area of expertise.
Okay, but you don't talk to the dogs and cats.
I don't. Well, yes, I talk to them. Of course I do. And they talk back.
That's what I want to hear. Okay, so just to touch on that, are you seeing any current trends with that? Like what are people feeding? Like, I mean, I feed my dog raw, okay?
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this. He's got an issue with diarrhea.
Yeah.
But like, are you seeing, like, is there something where someone could call you and say, hey, this is what's happening, and you would know, like, right away?
Yes, absolutely. It's almost always either people are home cooking, so they have no idea how many calories they're feeding, or they're rotating it so much that that the calories vary from day to day. But more importantly, people are not measuring the food accurately, and it's particularly a problem with cats. They like to free feed, which means putting some kibble in a bowl and walking away. So accurate measuring and accurate feeding is probably the biggest game changer in that area of veterinary medicine, as well as feeding the correct kind of food for what the pet needs. So,
because I would always look at the stuff on the bag, and it would recommend dosage and stuff like that, and I'm like, geez, that seems like a lot. They're just trying to overfeed these dogs so we buy more food.
Yeah, no, that's probably not the case, that assumption, but yes, the guidelines on the packaging are exactly that. They're guidelines. They're a place to begin. But just like people, every animal has a different level of metabolism. So most of my patients have extremely low metabolism, and so the guideline on the packaging, it would be crazy to feed them that much, but you don't know until you start tinkering around with it for that individual animal.
Is the metabolism due to like inactivity most of the time?
That, and unfortunately spaying and neutering, so having them fixed it's probably the only downside to spaying and neutering, or one of the few downsides. So I think it's awareness. So in veterinary medicine, when I was in regular practice, if a puppy or kitten was coming in for their spay or neuter, that's the time to say to the owner, after this procedure, you've got to be really careful how much you're feeding, because they are going to be much more prone to weight gain. And unfortunately, those conversations don't happen as often as we would like.
Yeah.
And then, you see the animal at 1.5 years of age or 2.5 years of age for their vaccines, and they've just ballooned. And it's because their metabolism has changed.
And then I guess, too, as they get older,
yeah,
right, if you're still feeding them puppy stuff
sure,
or the same amount as they get older and they're not as active.
That's right. The other big trend that people are not aware of is treats are a huge problem, and there's nothing wrong with feeding treats, but you've got to be careful what you choose. So for fun and fun and games, go into the pet store and just start looking at the packaging.
Yeah.
And the calories in some of these treats is unbelievable.
Okay, give these guys out here one treat that you would recommend. Low cal.
Cat treats for everybody.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Really?
So, Temptations, Greenies, the little dry cat treats, they're almost always 2 calories or less per treat.
Okay.
And one of my biggest tricks up my sleeve is, even for dogs, cat treats.
Dogs love them too.
Absolutely. And they come in 1 million different flavors.
Yeah.
But they're very low in calories. They're all the same size. So if I then tell you I'm putting your dog on a weight loss program and you can give him 20 cat treats a day, then I know that he's getting 40 calories, because they're 2 calories per treat. So I'm a huge fan of cat treats, even for dogs.
All right. So it's funny. I just had this epiphany when we were doing this. I'm like, we could talk about this for an hour.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Let's do it.
So
after we talk about
we talk about the turtles. That's why we're here. Okay. And then lastly, the euthanasia, mobile euthanasia that you're working for as well.
Yep.
So they'll come to your house and...
Other way around. I go to them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I work for Peaceful Passing, which is a wonderful business in Guelph. I'm part of a team, and they send me out on calls, when people unfortunately need that service.
Yeah.
And being able to provide it in someone's home is it's so dignified, and it's relaxing for the pet and easier on the owners. They can be in their pajamas or whatever they want.
Yeah.
And we really take our time and make it peaceful and dignified and just beautiful, really. I don't even know how many times clients have told me afterwards that was beautiful, and to give them a good death is it's a real honor, really.
Well, it's interesting too, because when we were talking about it beforehand here, you're like, it might be a bit morbid, but it's beautiful in the sense. And I mean, the majority of the time that I'd be familiar with that is the dog's on a slab, like a steel slab in a veterinary hospital, and that's it.
Yeah.
So they're not sitting on their favorite bed, they're not sitting by the fire or outside in the yard or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So what's that called again? Peaceful Passing?
The business I work for is Peaceful Passing, and they've been established in the community for a long time. They're very good.
Okay. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so turtles.
Yeah,
so
turtles.
Tell us, that's why we're here. I mean, my boys are always like, I find the more you look out for them, the more you find.
Exactly.
And that's why I thought we're here, just to kind of create awareness for everybody.
Yeah.
People will see turtles on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
They've been hit by cars. Sometimes they think that they're dead when they're not dead.
Yes.
But the more, it's kind of like, you buy a new truck and now you see that truck everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel very much, because Bennett is obsessed.
He is obsessed.
Okay.
I can vouch for that.
So tell us about the organization. Tell us how you got into it, and just a little bit around there, because we're going to dive in.
Gosh, and we're just at the beginning of turtle season, so I haven't talked about turtles in about 8 months. Okay. So bear with me. But I guess I was always interested in them, because even as a kid, we would find them and unfortunately bring them home as pets, which is completely illegal. And I know this now. Didn't know that as a child. So don't do that.
Yeah.
I always kind of had turtles in my life growing up. And then when I started working in private practice, in veterinary practice, I was out at actually just at Wingrove Veterinary Services, which is just out on 24.
Yep.
And so it's a rural practice. So it wasn't uncommon that we'd have a client come in the door and say, I just found this turtle on the road. What do I do? It's hurt.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of the receptionists at the clinic discovered the Ontario Turtle Conservation Center, or OTCC, and put me in touch with them. And they literally taught me over the phone how to provide basic first aid. And that's how I started getting involved in it. And then I just kept getting them from time to time. And then the OTCC approached me and said, would you be interested in officially joining our volunteer team as what they call a first responder?
Do you have to be a vet?
You do now. When I joined, they had some individuals who were in other lines of work, but very experienced.
Yeah.
But now, as regulations evolve in terms of the drugs we're using, they try to only involve veterinarians, or at least people who are trained in the veterinary field.
Okay.
So
when you say turtles, it's illegal to, take them home, right?
Yes.
We're not going to...
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, we're not going to rat you out.
No, that's fine. It is what it is.
There's a statute of limitations too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's no turtle that you could do that with right now.
No native turtles in Ontario. So wild turtles in Ontario, completely illegal to take them from their home environment. You can have pet turtles, that you purchase from a breeder or from a pet store. That's fine. But you can never release those turtles into the wild, and we can talk about that too.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have a friend of mine, and he when he moved into his house, he has a little pond, and there was a turtle there.
Very cool.
Okay, and he's kept that turtle there.
That's what he should do.
But like the pond is probably 3 times the size of this table, so it's not a big pond. Yeah. But like he calls him Snappy, he'll come out, he'll feed him, and he'll go back down. He stays down there all winter.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, and that's one of the things, the MNR, the Ministry of Natural Resources, has regulations surrounding moving any kind of wildlife, and turtles in particular. I believe they need to be kept, is it within a kilometer? I can't remember if it's 1K or 5K from their found location. So you can't, it's illegal to move turtles. So if you had a turtle in your pond and didn't want it there, then too bad, so sad.
So then, like, what's the what's the repercussions of that? Like, are they like, like you drop off a cat and they'll come back? Like what?
Right. There's a number of reasons. So you're asking why we can't move them. So yeah. So there's a number of reasons. So one is they do have a very strong natural homing instinct for the areas they like to lay eggs. Okay. The females. So if you move them away from there, they're still going to try to get back to their laying grounds, which puts them at higher risk for injury, like hit by car. The second major reason is the turtle populations in Ontario are very precarious right now, and if you start moving animals around, you mess up that balance, which can really start to impact the population in the various areas, especially with individual species. And then the third reason is they carry certain bacteria on their shells and on their bodies that are very individual to the regions they come from. Okay. So if you move them to another region, they bring in new bacteria, new organisms that might cause the other turtles in that area to become ill, and vice versa. They become exposed to organisms that they previously have not been exposed to and they don't have immunity to. So you run the risk of transmitting disease and that sort of thing. So those are the 3 big reasons why they should not be moved.
So they're real territorial that way, or I mean, would you see that another snapping turtle come into
that I don't know. I don't think they're particularly territorial. They do fight, of course, especially the snappers. Yeah. But it's more just like for their own health and safety, right? So, and you have to look at the bigger picture of the overall turtle population. Okay. So with the turtles too, I mean, you mentioned like bacteria. I mean, does that mean that their immune systems are like, I mean, because most animals, I mean, you look at coyotes or bears, or I mean, they're moving around. Yeah, they adapt, right? And I mean, I don't know a lot about other types of wildlife, but certainly it's like you think about perhaps like the indigenous people of Canada, and when the settlers came in, they brought in new diseases, right? So it's the very same concept.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. You mentioned snappers. Do you know anything about their jaw, like what their pounds of pressure is on their jaw? Just in case anybody's thinking about messing around.
I don't know, but they hurt.
Could they take a finger off?
Probably, I would think. So I've been bitten once by a painted turtle. And it was only about yay big. So if you're not watching the video, maybe like 6 or 7 centimeters across. Okay. It hurt like a bugger. And he would not let go. So I can't even imagine what it would feel like to be bitten by a full-size snapping turtle.
They're scary.
Oh, yeah. And their necks are very long. So you basically need to stay at the back half of their shell at all times. Okay,
so the Turtle Conservatory, right? That's what we call it?
The Ontario Turtle Conservation Center.
Okay, the Ontario Turtle Conservation Center. So what happens if you run into a turtle that's been injured or hit by a car? What is it exactly that they do?
So they take in turtles from anywhere in the province and occasionally from out of province. They must be wild turtles, so they won't take a pet turtle that's hurt or sick.
Okay.
But yes, if a turtle's been, let's say, hit by a car, the turtle will come to a first responder like myself to get basic care until they can be transported by a network of volunteer drivers to Peterborough, which is where the center is. At the center, they reassess their injuries. They provide medical treatment, whether it be pain management, antibiotics, supportive like fluids to keep them hydrated, that kind of thing. And then when they're stable enough, they actually put them under anesthesia and do surgery to repair the injuries.
So then where do they go after that?
So they'll stay with the center until they're releasable. And the goal is to get them back to their home environment.
So you'll have like well, I guess you'll document whether it's GPS coordinates or whatever, but
yes,
you'll document where they were found.
Yeah, so that's actually a key point. So if you're just a member of the general public and you find an injured turtle, one of the important things to do is to take note of where you found it, as close as possible. GPS coordinates are ideal, but even the closest intersection, because we need to know where to bring that turtle back to. Yeah, so it's really important.
And then. So then, when they're when they're there in Peterborough, how do you deal with the bacteria? So you'll have turtles coming from all over the place.
That's right.
How do you deal with that?
They are pretty careful with like biosecurity, and if you're handling an animal, you wear gloves, and then you change gloves or you wash your hands. So, and they don't allow the turtles to interact with each other. Each of them has their own literally Rubbermaid bin that they live in, and when they're able to have a bit of water in there, they'll add that.
But is it is it like 100 acres or is it just like a building?
The facility?
Yeah.
That's a great question. They actually are just in the process of moving into their new building, which is a huge deal. Before that, they were it was a strip mall with multiple units kind of amalgamated together. It is literally like a maze in there.
Yeah.
And I spent a couple days there volunteering just to see the other side of the world, the turtle world. And it was at the busy time of year, and there were bins and bins and bins on shelves and like lining the hallways. They were at capacity, but still taking more. They never say no. Wow. It was crazy. It's crazy. They take in, gosh, it's upwards of maybe 1,800 turtles a year now. Every year it's gone up. Every year.
So, I mean, like, so what I guess if they're at capacity, they're never at capacity.
They never say no. They never say no.
Jeez.
They find a way.
So do you have any numbers on, what type of numbers are you dealing with in terms of a yearly basis on, do they die? Like how many get hit by cars or what's the biggest threat to a
cars?
turtle?
100%.
100%.
Absolutely.
Because you're seeing turtle crossings on the roads, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of look at them and be like, "You serious? Can we really talk about this?"
Yeah. They're not that effective, the signs.
Yeah.
But it's a simple thing. Well, no, it's a simple thing to do, but they're just not that impactful. And I learned recently, actually, I think it was from Doug Breen, who's our local representative. He told me that certain municipalities won't do the signs because they're a highly stolen item.
Really?
So Animal Crossing signs in general, apparently people steal them, which is terrible.
Yeah.
More impactful in terms of road safety for turtles is if they can build underpasses for them and put up fencing. So in certain parts of Ontario, if you're driving like Highway 7 towards Ottawa, for example, is a really high risk area for turtle injuries. So they've built underpasses as they've repaired the roads. Yeah. And that's all from lobbying from organizations like the OTCC. And another reason why we need to know where these animals are found. So we can go, this is a really high hot spot for whatever reason. So let's focus on lobbying in that area. And there's a local organization here, and their name's slipping my mind at the moment, but out of Eden Mills. And they've done quite a bit of lobbying locally to get some wonderful underpasses built. I think Maltby Road is a big one, so just south of here.
Because you see that, you see similar at larger scale for deer and things like that in certain areas too, right? Yeah. So cars are the biggest. What's the second biggest threat? Habitat?
Probably, yeah. Habitat just being taken over by, new housing. Sorry, I know you're in real estate.
Yeah.
New housing.
We're going to edit that out.
It's okay. or I hate to say it, farmland, if it's impinging on the wetlands and stuff. So it's just loss of habitat, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then with the turtles, how many different types of turtles are we seeing in Ontario?
There's 8 species.
Okay.
All of them are at various levels of threatened risk. So anywhere
all
from
of them?
Every single one. So it used to be that 7 out of the 8 were considered at risk. The exception was a snapper, and maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, the snapper got to a point where they were added to the list.
Okay.
So they're all threatened at some level, and some of them much more than others.
So is there one that's endangered? Is there what's the most rarest turtle
in Ontario?
Yeah.
It's the woods turtle, which is a land-based turtle, and I've never seen one in the wild. I've never cared for one.
What's it look like?
They look more like a tortoise, so they've got a more domed shell, and they have like reddish orange coloring on their legs. Okay. They're not commonly seen. There's little pockets of them around Ontario.
And are they big?
I'm not even sure because I've only ever seen a few, but like the ones I've seen at the center are maybe like the size of a dessert plate, maybe.
Let's get a photo of that, Kyle.
Yeah, woods turtle.
Woods turtle.
Yep.
And then from there, that's right now that's the most rare turtle that
to my knowledge, yeah.
So in Guelph Aramasa, what are we seeing?
Predominantly snappers, so snapping turtles, and I would say painted turtles would be the top 2.
Yeah.
Occasionally, we'll see a Blandings turtle, which are a higher sort of risk of endangerment, we'll say. Not a lot of them around here, but they're more popular. Like I see them a lot in the Kingston area, for example.
Do you go out of province for anything turtle related?
No.
No?
No.
What's the biggest turtle in Ontario but Canada?
I don't know about Canada. I assume it's snapping turtles. Snapping turtles in Ontario can get huge.
Yeah?
I wish I'd looked up the numbers before I came because I've had some that have been, well over 30 pounds for sure. And I'm not even sure. I used to know what the number was for the largest one they've had at the center, but it was one of the ones I had was one of their largest.
So if somebody sees a turtle, okay, like I've seen a few turtles, and one of the times we were stopped on the road, and I had to watch a YouTube video because I was like, "How do I move this thing?"
It's
and
probably my video.
Well, and I took a car mat. I took my car mat.
That works
because they're like, "Well, don't drag the turtle or anything like that." And yeah, I took the car mat and then put the turtle on and then dragged them off. So,
yep, good.
What would you recommend? Is that something similar? Or?
That's probably the least intimidating thing for people, but they're very fast and they'll turn around and snap at you. And it's because snapping turtles, the reason they snap is because I call them the meatheads of the turtle world. Yeah, they don't fit in their shell. So they can't retract, whereas all the other species can suck their legs and their heads and their tails right in and for their protection, and that's what they do. But
they
snappers
can't. Fully?
Yep.
So it's not just in the cartoons.
No, they're right in. But snappers can't. They don't fit in their shell because they're like beefy and they've got all these extra rolls of skin. Yeah. So they snap. That's their defense mechanism. And then your question was the best way to move the turtle off the road. So
snapper, I guess.
Well,
because if it's a painted turtle, it's. I mean, you got bit by one, but it's pretty...
doing something stupid. But
so where do you grab them?
Oh, I wish I'd brought I have a shell I could have brought to show you. Dang. I didn't know it was on video. So let me move my water so I don't spill it. Can I use the top book?
Yeah, you can use the skull.
Okay. Oh, no, I don't need the skull. But I'm going to show you how to handle a snapping turtle. So for those on the video. So this is the turtle's head. Yeah. Legs, back legs, tail. Right between the top of the shell and the back legs, if you reach your hands in there, there's these natural handles, and you should be able to fit your entire hand in under there, or a good chunk of it. And with those handles, they can't turn around and bite you because you're in the back half of the shell. Yeah. They can't scratch you, or it's fairly hard for them to scratch you.
Because they have long nails, right?
Yes, they do. I've been scratched many times. But because you're right above those back legs, it's pretty hard for them to hit you. Okay. And then you can raise their back end, and if they're not too big, you can actually lift them like this and carry them like that. The safest way to do it is once you have a good grip on them, they can't turn around and get you. You gotta go in there like full bore and grab.
So if you half-ass it and you're not,
they will spin around. Yeah. Okay. So grab those handles, and then what I do is I take
feet off the ground.
Ideally, yeah. But if you don't want to drop them, so if it's a big one, I always take my dominant hand and I slip it right under the tail, like this, and I hold them like a pizza pie. And this hand can come right up to the base of the neck. They can't get you. They can only snap to the sides and up. They cannot snap down. And if your hand's under here, as soon as you get those 4 legs off the ground, they generally just dangle. They go, okay, I give up. And they might like look back at you and hiss at you and stuff. Yeah. But generally, as soon as you have them off the ground, they're like, you win.
But the firm hand.
This is key. Yeah. And the other thing I should have started with is, if you have anything in the car, like a blanket, a towel, even a sweatshirt or something, throw it over top of the turtle's head first, and then they don't see you coming. And it gives you that extra little split second of time to really get a firm grip on them. It's also a very small layer of protection between you and it, so that if they did try to bite, at least you've got some sort of fabric between you and it.
So the back legs, when you're going underneath to find those natural handles, you're going on the behind the back legs, like where the butt would be.
That's right. Like as if you're going to grope them, basically.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, I can understand.
Yeah. So grope the turtle.
Yeah, and I'm holding them. I'm holding tight. Okay. Yep. And then from there, if I can't lift, then I'm coming underneath and I'm lifting the turtle like this.
That's right. And if you're not comfortable doing that, you can also grab those handles, tip up the back end, and we call it wheelbarrowing them. So you can literally go like this, and they'll move their front legs, and as long as you keep holding death grip on them, you can wheelbarrow them across the road. If it's a high traffic area, first of all, if it's a really high traffic area, do not risk pulling over. Just don't. Try not to hit it, but just leave it. But if it's a low traffic area, you can wheelbarrow them if you need to move them faster because there's a vehicle coming. Worst case, you can drag them. It's not ideal, but it's better than getting completely hit. So, yeah. And the other piece that's really important, move them in a direction they're going. So before you approach them, because they'll spin around and look at you, take note of which way they're going, because they want to go that way. And if you go, but the wetland's over there, and you take them back to the wetland, they're just going to turn around and try it again because they have that natural homing instinct. They want to go lay eggs, or they want to go find their girlfriends. Yeah. So you've got to take them in the direction they're going.
Okay. So on that note, turtles are males, females? Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Male, female. Yeah. It's very hard to tell them apart. I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
I'm going to put your book back.
Yeah, sure.
But it's very hard to tell them apart. Certain times a year, I can pretty much guess if it's a male or female. Yeah. So right now, what are we?
Are the males bigger or the females bigger?
Not necessarily. It depends on the species. So, for example, in the Kingston area, the northern map turtle is very popular, very common. I've seen a ton of them, and the females are 2 to 3 times the size of the males. Yeah. So the females are like the size of a huge dinner plate, and the males are like little tiny teacup plates.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, when the female, do they still, when they lay eggs, do they still bury them in the sand?
Yep.
And
Yep.
Because you'll see on the sides of the roads. They'll do that, right?
If you see that, don't approach them. Don't disturb them. If you're able to sit, like safely pull over and monitor them until they're done and make sure they don't get hit, you can. Yeah. And then once they've left, you can mark the nest and then notify a local organization to see if it's possible for them to protect the nest.
So they wouldn't move it. They would protect them until
some organizations have the permits from the MNR, the Ministry of Natural Resources, to remove high-risk nests, but it's otherwise illegal to disturb a nest. So don't do it on your own.
So how many eggs do they lay?
It's very much depending on the species and the size. So for example, if I get a painted turtle, which are, they're like maybe the size of a small dessert plate or smaller, they might have like 6-8 eggs, 6 or 8. I think I've seen maybe 9 at the most. Okay. But the big snapping turtles, 40, 50 plus eggs.
And then how many of those survive?
Not very many. It's like less than 1%.
Wow.
Yep. So snapping turtles are a great example. So it takes them, I think it's about 20 years to reach maturity. And what I mean by that is to be able to lay salvageable eggs. Yeah. Okay. For a single 20-year-old snapping turtle to replace itself, it takes 60 years, because all of the hatchlings, all the babies that hatch, most of them die or they don't hatch at all. So for one single snapping turtle baby to make it up to reproductive age 20, takes 60 years. And that's why every single turtle is important to try and save.
See, that's a good point, because I was going to say, like 40 eggs every time. Like,
I know.
So what's the cycle then? Like, is it springtime, or are they continually laying eggs?
Spring, typically. Yeah.
Okay.
So pretty soon we're going to start to see. So right now we're seeing the males just coming out because they're going to mate.
So so would that make sense? Like 1 in every 100 eggs?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't do the math. But yeah, it's a very, very low rate. And like a baby turtle hatching and surviving to, get to the pond is one thing, but they need to survive to reproductive age. And that's years and years and years.
So for a snapper, it's 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they hatch, what happens? Does the mother just leave?
Yeah, she leaves as soon as she's laid the eggs, and she never sees her babies again. Or if she does, she doesn't know they're theirs.
Yeah.
Hers. So she buries the nest and hopes for the best, basically. And then the biggest problem with the nest, besides like damage from the public or like vehicles driving over, that kind of thing, the biggest problem is predators. So raccoons and that sort of thing will dig them up and eat the eggs. And that's a natural predator, but the raccoon population is what it is because of us, right?
Yeah, like they're growing.
Yeah.
Same as coyotes,
exactly.
Right?
So again, it comes back to humans are the problem, unfortunately.
So would turtles eat other turtles' eggs? Or eat their own
possibly. Eggs? I don't know.
So I've heard something, now I don't know if it's true or not, but like a turtle can, so you have your male turtle fertilizes the eggs, right? Mm-hmm. That can stay in the female turtle for a number of years?
I think so. I think I've heard that too. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I'm definitely not an expert in that stuff.
Okay, we're gonna look.
Yeah, sorry.
We're gonna look that up, Kyle. Okay, because I wasn't sure, but they said that the fertilization can stay in the female, and then however that works, right?
Well, they can also lay eggs that are non-fertile, so they can, like your pet turtle that's never been exposed to another turtle will still lay eggs if it's female.
Okay, and
obviously they're not.
But then how? Like they just find their mates, like you and Tim found each other.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Go out on dates and stuff.
Right?
I don't know.
But like I guess what I was kind of getting at that is like, with the turtles being so scarce, right? Like does the female turtle lay the eggs and then the male turtle comes and fertilizes it?
No, they mate.
They mate.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, but like I said, the female turtle could lay eggs and bury the eggs, but they
could be non-viable.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay. So then in terms of turtles, are there any interesting facts about turtles that you find just like why? I guess the second question too is like, for you, why are you so passionate around turtles? Like, I mean, I know you're dogs and cats, but why turtles?
They're just cute.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's it.
I don't know. I find them easy to work with, and like helping them is very rewarding because they can survive incredibly devastating injuries. Like people, I don't even know how often, someone will text me, a friend or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, I saw one hit by a car, but it was too far gone. I'm like, they're never too far gone. It's unbelievable what they can come back from with the right care.
Yeah.
And even if they can't survive it, if they're female and they're carrying eggs, we can get the eggs once they're deceased.
Yeah.
We can remove those eggs, and quite often they will hatch. So they'll incubate them at the center and salvage them.
So if someone sees a turtle on the side of the road with a cracked shell,
yep, I
would look at that and say, okay, it's
hopeless. Yeah. I know. Yeah. No, they're not. They're not. Absolutely. If it's safe to pick them up.
And I don't know if was it you that was talking about a turtle that had been living in someone's kitchen for Years and years and
Oh,
years.
probably. Yeah. I've every year I get a handful of what we call kidnapped turtles, which are wild turtles that someone's kept as a pet for sometimes a number of years.
Yeah.
And then discovered, like I did when I was younger, that, oh, that's illegal. And, you know, they have the best intentions. And so kudos to them for contacting the center and saying, I'm really embarrassed to say I have a pet turtle that I took from the conservation area.
Yeah.
And now I don't know what to do. And so the center will take them in. They'll make sure they're healthy, you know, run blood work, that kind of thing, get them back nutritionally to where they need to be, because that's the hardest part about owning a pet turtle is the nutrition.
Okay.
And then they'll rehabilitate them, make sure they could survive in the wild. They, you know, make sure they can hunt and get their food and all that jazz. And then they'll release them as close as possible to where they were believed to be found.
Okay. And those people, like, are there any repercussions?
I don't think there should be, because I think they do it in innocence.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose if someone said, yeah, I have a pet turtle and it's a painted turtle and, you know, I refuse to give it up, then in theory they could be reported to the MNR and be fined and the whole bit. So
then if we go back to a turtle getting hit on the road, if someone sees the turtle? Okay. I mean, if you see it just crossing the road, you had mentioned picking it up. You know, I put it on a car mat.
Yep.
The direction that it was facing is the direction that you're going to bring it to.
Yes.
But if there's a turtle on the road that's been hit,
yep.
What does somebody do? Because the majority of the time they're just going to keep driving by.
Yes, they are. Okay. So what you need to do is, if you can get it safely, get it into your vehicle, into some sort of containment system.
Okay.
I've had people bring me turtles in reusable grocery bags. That's fine.
Okay. Cardboard box, Rubbermaid container.
Yeah. If you think you want to help turtles on a regular basis, I recommend carrying a couple of Rubbermaid bins in your car. Those grocery bins now that we have, those are perfect. Just wash them really well after.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically get the turtle safely into your vehicle, make note of where you found it, and then contact the Ontario Turtle Conservation Centre. I don't know their phone number off the top of my head, but if you literally type in Ontario Turtle into any search engine, it'll be the first hit.
Okay.
Call them. They're probably going to be crazy busy and you're going to get voicemail. That's fine. Leave a message, leave one message with your name and phone number, and then just go home.
They will call you.
They'll call you. Keep the turtle in a bin. Do not give it food. Do not give it water. Leave it alone. You've done your part. Just leave it be. Do not give it medical care and wait for them to call you. And it might even be the next day, and that is totally fine, because the turtle is in a safer place than it was when you picked it up.
Okay, so like GPS the coordinates.
Yep, if you can, yeah. Or at least make note of roughly where you found it.
Where you found it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they give it water? Why wouldn't they feed it?
Well, so if it's got a crack in the shell, if you put it in water, it could drown, because the water will get into its shell and fill up the body cavity.
Okay.
They definitely will be fine without food and water for a number of days. So the best thing you can do is not intervene whatsoever, other than to put it in a safe container and leave it alone.
Okay. So if you feed it, right, you could potentially feed it something that...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people feed them the wrong thing, not the wrong things, but just stuff that is useless. And quite frankly, they're probably not going to eat.
Like sardines.
So, sure. Don't give it. I mean, they'll eat them, but don't feed them. So, and even when I have them in my care, I never, ever, ever feed them. They're fine. They'll be fine for days without food. They're accustomed to that.
Okay. So how old, like at 20 years, they can reproduce.
Yeah,
snappers.
Snappers,
Okay.
Yeah.
How old do the turtles get?
Oh gosh, it depends on the species, but they can get upwards of 50, 60 plus years easily.
For a snapper or painted turtle? Or
painteds are going to be less, I would think, but certainly snappers. I mean, it's very hard to know how old they are, but yeah, like 50s, 60s and up.
Okay.
So.
And then, so with your experience, I mean, you've seen some stuff. Okay, we had given you a turtle that, you know, they had determined may have been abused by a burning stick and poked into its shell. It's gonna, you know, I know it's a little grotesque, but what are some of the worst things that you've seen humans do to turtles on purpose?
So that your case, and I had a similar one where someone had put the turtle in the fire pit. And
alive?
I assume so because it was still alive when I got it.
Yeah.
But it was covered in burn marks, and someone had dug it out of the fire pit. Like, I guess the previous people who'd camped there had done it, and it was badly burned. And
was that a snapper? Or
it was a painted turtle. That one. That was probably that one. And then I also had a very large snapper brought to me, and someone had taken a metal stake, like a nail, like a big fat metal nail, and hammered it into its shell.
Like all the way through?
Like through into the body cavity. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in those situations, did those turtles survive?
I don't know for sure. I know the one with the nail unfortunately did not, because I did get an update on that one. The other one, the Turtle Center gets so many turtles that it's impossible to ask them for updates. Like,
so you don't get updates like they
rarely. There's the occasional case that's like really interesting, like the one with the nail.
Yeah.
And I'll try to follow it. I happen to have a few connections at the Turtle Center, so I'll call them up. I'll be like, hey, can you just let me know what happened with that one?
Yeah.
But I try not to ask too often because they are so swamped with cases. They just don't have time to provide updates.
Oh,
so
that's too bad.
It is. Now, my best friend works at the Turtle Center. That's my connection. So if I go to visit her, I get to walk around the center and I'll like, oh, that's my handwriting. And then I'll look at the file and see if I remember the turtle.
What you write? Oh, like on the paperwork?
Yeah, because we have to submit medical records.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll see my own handwriting on a case. I'll be like, ooh, that was my turtle. And I'll go and see like, oh, good, you're still alive. And sometimes I'll recognize it, but it starts to become a blur. Like last year I took in, I think it was over 230 turtles. Just in one season. That was my busiest.
And it's getting worse.
Every year it's worse. Yeah. So and I want to say something about that, because people are like, oh, like more and more people are hitting them. That's not the case. I really don't believe that's the case. And if I thought that was the case, I don't think I'd have the heart to keep doing this, because I'd be so disappointed. So what I think is happening is more and more things like this podcast are occurring, and people are becoming more and more aware that something can be done.
Yeah.
So whereas before you listened to this podcast, you would have driven past that turtle on the road. Now you're going to stop and get it. So I think more and more people are trying to help them. And so the Turtle Center is seeing an increase every year.
So
and they think that too. That's their theory as well.
So I've had, I've mentioned to people about having you on the show here, and people are like, oh my God, like I want to be there. I want to hear this. And I guess like, what is it? Like, what is it about turtles that are like, do you know what I mean? Like
they're pretty endearing, right? Like you think about all the cartoon characters, like, you know, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Franklin and whatever.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, they're a very unique creature, and they're very prehistoric, right? Like they haven't really changed much over thousands and thousands of years. So, you know, people who have a fascination with dinosaurs are most likely interested in turtles.
Yeah.
And people are often scared of snakes, and including myself, but put a shell on it and now it's cute. Like I don't know what it is. Like,
but it's just weird because like I look at a turtle and I'm like, okay, yeah, kind of cute, the painted ones, but
they're pretty.
The snappers scare the shit out of me, to be honest.
Sure, yeah, they're terrifying.
But like, I mean, it's, you know, a dog or a cat, like you get it.
Yeah.
Okay, they're nuzzling up to you.
Yeah.
Right, like a turtle doesn't like.
No. A pet turtle is not my cup of tea. Like, there's so much work. And if you ever want to get a pet turtle, don't go buy one. There are turtles at the humane societies that people have given up for whatever reason because they live forever. Yeah. And because they can't care for them. And there's been turtles at the Toronto Humane, for example, that have been up for adoption for years.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So if anybody's thinking about getting a turtle, like would they have snapping turtles there?
No, because not native ones, but there may be, I'm not even sure if there'd be species of snappers from other areas of the world that would be considered acceptable pets.
Excuse me.
That's okay. The other organization, it's called Little Rescue, RES-Q.
Yeah. And
so RES stands for red-eared slider, and that is the most common pet turtle you're going to see.
Okay.
And a lot of people think they're painted turtles, or vice versa. That's okay.
What? Oh, your ears? Oh. Sorry.
That's okay. So red-eared sliders are not the same as painted turtles. And so people will call me and say, oh, I found an injured turtle. It's a red-eared slider. And I'll say, no, it's probably a painted. But so the little rescue organization, if someone brings me an injured turtle and it's a red-eared slider, it's been released by someone thinking, I can't keep this pet turtle anymore, I'm going to release it, which is horrible to do for many reasons. And then it goes out and gets hit by a car.
But will they not survive?
Oh, they'll do fine. They do too well, unfortunately. Like the red-eared sliders they take over the wetland or whatever, and
but they're not a native.
They're not a native species.
But people think they're a painted turtle.
Yes, and they think, oh, I have this pet turtle. I got it from the pet store when I was a kid, and now I can't care for it. The nicest thing, the kindest thing would be to let it go out in the wild.
Yeah.
Don't do that. It's illegal for various reasons, but it can really harm the local populations. But then sometimes they get hit by cars, and I receive them because people think they're a painted turtle, and they're not. So the turtle
can you give those to the center?
Yeah, I do. So we still provide them care because they've landed in our hands, and we're not going to not give them care. It's cruel. But if they survive their injuries, then they often go to Little Rescue, and the Little Rescue will try to rehome them. They'll never be released into the wild again.
Okay. So don't go buy one.
Yeah, if you want a pet turtle, first of all, research it extensively. They're a ton of work. I've never cared for one as an adult, and I have no intention of it. Yeah. Too much work.
If you had a pond, could you have a pet turtle and leave it there?
The risk of it taking off, the risk of it wandering away and causing problems elsewhere would be too great. I wouldn't recommend it. If you had a very, very secure, like some people have like a solarium in their home with running water and with like a pond feature, that would be a safe place to keep a red-eared slider. Okay. As long as it can't get out into the wild.
So if a turtle is at the side of the road, how can you tell if it's alive?
It's almost impossible to tell. I can't even tell.
Like there's sometimes. You can't
No.
There's no pulse.
Even the turtle center can't tell.
You can't touch underneath the neck.
Nope. You can check for reflexes, so you can pinch their back feet, and if they try to retract them, then they're alive. They'll take a breath once in a while, but their heart rate's very, very low. Like you can't listen to them with a stethoscope.
Like you can't hook them up to anything, or
nope.
So then how do you know?
You don't. So if I think, this is really gory, but if I think that a turtle has passed away in my care, I have to wait at least 48 hours before I do anything invasive. So let's say I know it has eggs because there's a way to palpate for eggs. So I know it's got eggs. I'm pretty sure it's died in my care. If it doesn't go to the center after 48 hours, then I can go in and remove the eggs, knowing that it's very, very likely dead. But you really don't know. You don't. If I think it's deceased and it doesn't have eggs and it's not going to the center anytime soon, I'll wait 48 hours and then I will freeze it. Which is also disgusting.
You'll freeze the turtle or the egg?
The turtle. And then it'll go to the center for postmortem and research and yada yada.
Does it really go like do they do the research on them?
Yep. They want all the turtles. Every turtle. They want them all.
And they have enough
capacity?
Where's the funding? Is that provincial funding?
Well, you can donate to the Turtle Center. Please do. They run on a shoestring budget. They're constantly applying for grants. And they also have a huge volunteer base. So they do have some paid employees, of course. But they also rely heavily on volunteers. So there's volunteers in the Peterborough area that will go in and help provide care, like cleaning the facility, like cleaning the bins, feeding the turtles, that sort of thing. And then there's volunteers like myself spread out across the province who can provide medical care. And then the big one, a lot of people ask, well, how can I help? They have a whole network of drivers. It's probably like 600 plus people and all across the province. And they volunteer to relay turtles to Peterborough. So I quite often will receive turtles from the London area through a volunteer driver, and then a different driver will pick them up and drive them to Markham, and then another driver will pick them up from that driver and take them to Peterborough. So and they're called the Turtle Taxi Network.
Okay, so what's okay? What would your designation be in relation to the turtles?
So they call me a first responder.
Okay. How many first responders? Like, do they have a first responder in every county
I wish. It's very haphazard, but I think they have around 30. Don't quote me on that. There's a few in this area. So there's a veterinary clinic in Fergus that's doing it.
Okay.
There's a clinic in Orangeville, and then myself. We're kind of the big three in this region.
Yeah.
And the problem geographically with where we are is it's very hard to get someone to volunteer to drive them across Toronto.
Yeah.
So I quite often will there's first responders in the London area. I'll get their turtles. So they've started the care, and then they've been transferred to me, and then I'm the bottleneck. So I'll end up with like multiple turtles in my care.
Yeah.
And they get at some point I say to the center, I can't take any more. I'm full, because it's not so much the space, it's my time, right? It's all voluntary. And there's been times where I've been up till midnight treating turtles because I've received, 5 or 6 during the day, but I've been working.
Yeah.
And then I come home from work and I briefly stop to eat, and then I treat turtles all night long.
So I think that's probably important to highlight too, is that like majority of them that are working for turtle, what was it?
First responders?
Yeah. Sorry, first responders are volunteer.
Oh yeah,
right?
Nobody's paid for it. I don't know if it's the majority, but a large handful of them are actual veterinary clinics. So it's not one single person, and they've got the facilities, they've got the equipment. I have just the basic needs at my house because I work out of my home.
Yeah.
And Tim helps me a lot, and the kids actually help me a lot. So I can't not give them credit for that. But it's just me. So not only do I have to treat the turtles, when they leave my care, I've got to clean the bins. I've got to clean my supplies. So whereas a vet clinic, they have, maybe 20 employees that are all kind of pitching in.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work.
So the thing is, so if you do phone them, leave a message, just one message.
One message.
Because they will call you back.
They will, yeah.
It might be 24, it might be 48 hours, but they'll call you back.
Yes. And then leave the turtle alone.
Okay, don't feed it.
Don't handle it. Alone. Just leave it alone.
All right, and then I think too, like, have patience, right? Because if there's a lot of volunteers, you need to be able to do that.
That's right.
So, like, to me, listening to this, if I found a turtle, it would give me confidence that coming and taking the turtle, marking the geographic location, putting it in a Rubbermaid container, making the calls, monitoring, and waiting.
Yep. That's all you need to do. And when they call you back, they may have a first responder like myself nearby, like next door.
Yeah.
And if I'm available, because they'll know if I'm on holiday or not, then they'll say, can you take it to XYZ clinic or XYZ person? And if you're willing to drive it, that's awesome. They may say,
like to Peterborough?
Yeah, they may even ask, any chance you feel like driving to Peterborough? And you can say no, that's fine. But then they'll say, okay, we're going to work on finding a volunteer to drive it.
Yeah.
So if you, for example, can't bring it to me or whatever first responder, that's fine. They'll find a volunteer. You just need to be willing to keep it in that bin and literally like put it in a safe place in your home, away from your pets, away from your kids. Don't pick it up. Just leave it be. It's hard to resist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess in your case, you have to have a spouse that's pretty understanding. I mean, you understand the cows, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got to understand the turtles.
He and the kids, Tim has 2 adult kids. They'll often accept turtles on my behalf if I'm not available. So if I'm out, at my actual job where I'm being paid, and I get a call from the center saying, can you take a turtle from Tyler next door? I'll say, sure, but I'm not home. So then my husband or the kids will meet them at the house and just put it in a safe place until I can come home and take care of it.
If somebody wants to volunteer, how do they go about doing that? And what jobs would there be for them?
Yeah, so if you're near Peterborough, you can volunteer to help at the center. If you want to be a volunteer driver, that's probably the biggest one. And the nice thing about being a volunteer driver is there's no commitment. All you need to do is agree to receive a couple of emails a day, because they'll send out lists of here's all the turtles that need rides from here to here. And if you happen to be going up to the cottage and you can drive that turtle from my place to Aurelia, cool.
That was my thought. That was my thoughts exactly.
And then if you see a turtle come in on the list and it says Rockwood, multiple turtles need a ride, you can say, hey, I'm driving to Aurelia this weekend. I could take them to Aurelia if you can find someone to get them from me to bring them on to Peterborough.
So would they need to be a volunteer, or could you just phone and do that?
You definitely don't want to phone in because they're slammed with phone calls.
Like you have to be vetted almost, right?
Yeah, and there is a tiny bit of training, not much. It's just basically explaining what not to do. Okay. You basically put them in your car in the containers they come in, or maybe you have some of your own containers, but you don't have to handle them generally. You definitely don't have to provide any medical care. You just need to get them from point A to point B and hand them off.
So if you're doing, if you go to an alumni event at Queen's,
yeah.
Would you, before you left, would you look at the list to see?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't usually drive through Peterborough, but so.
Because mine would be Ottawa, so I was just thinking,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm going to head up there. Maybe I can.
Absolutely. I'm on the list and I'm not a volunteer driver, but if I can give a ride, I will. Like they'll allow me to because I do other stuff for them. And my best friend who works at the center, she lives a little bit closer to the 401. So I often will stop in and visit her on my way to Kingston.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, all right, if I can get the turtles to her, then she can take them to work the next morning.
Yeah.
Done. So I try to offer when I can.
Yeah.
And my hunt camp is, I drive right past the turtle center to get there. So if I have turtles in my care, I'll say to them, you know what, don't bother finding a ride. I'm leaving for the hunt camp tomorrow. I'll stop in and drop everybody off for you. So occasionally I will drive them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess in that respect too, everybody can lend a bit of a hand.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's lots you can do that way. If you can't, donate your time, they also have an Amazon wish list.
Yeah.
Or you can donate financially. And they also have a really nice online store with all sorts of nice like hats and sweatshirts and that sort of thing. And the money goes to the center.
Yeah.
So there's lots of other ways to support them.
So donations, donating your time.
Yep.
Right.
They often have specific pieces of equipment they need. Like multiple times a year, they'll put a call out for clipboards. So if you want to go buy 20 clipboards and drop them off in Peterborough, that'd be amazing.
And then access, where would you how would you find out about that again?
It's all on their website. So it's ontarioturtle.ca.
How can you put that on screen?
Yeah. Or just Google Ontario and turtle and be the first hit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So, so then in terms of issue, or like we talked about horror stories, okay?
Yeah.
Is there any in your head that might not have been directly associated with you? Like there's no turtle farms, like there are like puppy mills or anything like that, right?
No. I have one neat, pretty cool story. I received a turtle that was hit by a car that was presumed to be a wild turtle, and it arrived, and I'm like, "That's a tortoise. That's a pet tortoise," and it was pretty big, like, and like very dome shell, and I'm like, "That is not a native species."
Is there native tortoises?
No.
In Ontario?
No, not exactly. The woods turtle would be the closest.
Okay.
But no, there's no native tortoises in Ontario.
So where would they be from? Just out of
curiosity. Like South America, southern states, that kind of thing. So anyway, this tortoise came to me and I'm like, weird. So I provided it basic care. And then I think myself or the Turtle Center reached out to, it had come from the London area. Yeah. So reached out to a few organizations like humane societies in that region. Turns out there was a fellow who'd lost his tortoise and the poor thing had wandered out onto a road and been hit. So I had it. His name was Herman.
Yeah.
And so I managed to get
the tortoise or the man?
The tortoise. So I managed to reach the owner. We connected, and he came up and got the tortoise and took it to an exotic animal vet for care. So wow. So it actually got back to its owner, and it got medical care. And I don't know if it survived or not, but I believe they pursued surgery and like quite a bit of care. So.
And have you ever heard any stories of people? They're either arrested for abuse or they've been charged, or like, because if someone were to, like in our case where you had a stick or a poker and it was on, and you poke the shell and burn the shell, like, I mean, if somebody does that, it would be the same as abusing any type of
absolutely
animal.
Yeah.
So they can face charges or jail time or anything.
For sure. 100%. The problem is, like, when those events happen, generally the people are long gone. So to be able to prove that, let's say it's from the Rockwood Conservation Area and it was found in a campsite like yours.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe the previous group, but you can't prove it. Yeah. So I've never been involved in a case like that where it's gone, like where they found the culprits and the whole bit. I have been involved in animal cruelty cases in like my veterinary career in private practice, but those were like farm animal type situations and dogs and cats.
And do you see that often in your practice?
No, God, no, not very often, thank goodness.
But you're obligated to report it.
Oh, yes, absolutely obligated to report it. And if they ask us to be involved in it, then we're involved.
So then, do they do any like data collection then around that? And they have like
Yeah, for sure. The Turtle Center collects all sorts of data around that, but like that's pretty rare. Abuse is rare, but more so like where are they being hit by cars, or diseases? Are there new diseases cropping up? And like ranavirus is one virus that turtles are very prone to.
What's it called?
Ranavirus.
Rana. Okay.
And if there's some ranavirus, say in the Hamilton area, and so that's alarming when you start to see that developing because it can wipe out the turtle population.
And it'll spread.
Yeah.
And that's not native. That's like something coming in.
Yeah, it's probably been brought in from a turtle that was moved, basically, illegally. So.
Holy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Graham, you are interesting, to say the least. Okay. I know, like we were talking about it this morning, we are going to have her back, but she goes out and she's like a wilderness guru here. How would you explain yourself here with your portages and
my canoe tripping?
Yeah.
So I do multi-day backcountry canoe trips. I've been doing them since I was a kid with family. Then just went with friends. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I started going solo. It was right before COVID hit, which was very convenient.
Yeah.
And now I prefer to travel solo, or I'll often go with my friend who works at the Turtle Center, but that's basically it. And I'll go out, like last fall, I did my longest solo trip was 14 days.
Wow.
And that was by far the longest trip I've ever done. Prior to that, it's like a week, maybe 10 days max.
Yeah.
So that was a big adventure. But I love being out by myself in the wilds, and yeah, you see the odd person, but it's so empowering because you don't have to worry about anyone else. But you're completely self-sufficient, which is pretty wild. So.
That's cool. Right? So like you fend for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I bring all my own food. I'm not a fisher person. I don't like fish. I don't hunt, obviously. I'm in the provincial park system. I bring it, but it usually doesn't work, and keeping the battery charged is difficult. So no, I should probably carry a device for emergency, and I'm thinking about it. Okay. I had an incident on that 14-day trip last year where I was involved in a rescue of a hiker, and that was very, very eye-opening for me. He had a device, I did not. He'd already activated it. I stayed with him, provided first aid, helicopter came, the whole bit. So, and he did fine. He's fine. Wow. But that was very eye-opening, and I will probably invest in a device this year. So
that's a hell of a hobby.
Yeah, it's expensive and time-consuming, but I love it. It drives my husband crazy because
it's expensive just with gear.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it on a cheaper budget, but over time you discover that lighter weight is better, or you have certain preferences, and so slowly your gear evolves over time. So I've been investing in my gear for like 40 years, I would say, 30, 40 years, and like I'm still using the sleeping bag I bought when I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and just last year I retired the stove I was given for my 20th birthday, and I'm 48. So
you stove and everything. Do you see turtles out there, or do you?
Yeah. Not as much as I would like, but yeah, I'm always watching for wildlife, and I see lots of turtles. I've had many run-ins with bears. Everyone always asks about the bears.
Yeah.
And that's why I wish that I hadn't been such a chicken, and because I was always scared of bears. And then I started going solo, and that's when I started having bear run-ins on my campsites, and it's because I'm so quiet. I'm very clean, and I'm very careful with my food. So they wander into my campsite thinking no one's there because I'm so quiet. And twice now it's happened at dusk when I'm sitting by the shore with a glass of wine reading a book. So my joke.
So your heaviest gear, your bottles
is my
of
wine. They're not bottles. I transfer them into little flasks.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so my joke is that the bears are just looking for a good glass of wine and a good book. So, and as soon as they see me, they take off. But I will say, every bear run-in that I've had has increased my confidence in myself.
Yeah.
Because every single time they run away, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I carry a number of pieces of safety equipment just in case, but I've never had to use any of them. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kyle over here, he's trained in survival, aren't you, Kyle?
A little bit?
A little bit of wilderness stuff.
Yeah.
So like foraging for food.
Oh, okay.
Catching rabbits.
Yeah, what do they call that? Bushcraft, that kind of thing?
I'm not like very good. I did a lot more when I was younger. And
That's cool.
yeah, it was fun. You know, building shelters, cold weather camping, still
Yep.
ATV all the time too. So.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
neat.
that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
love being out there.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and we'll end on this. You mentioned helivac flying somebody out.
Yeah.
Now, Laura was talking about that happened with turtles. Did that ever happen with the turtle?
Sort of, yeah. So I mentioned the network of drivers, the volunteer drivers. There are one or two, I've only met one of them, but I think there are two volunteer pilots that have little, I don't know if they're Cessnas, little 2-person planes, whatever those are called. And there's one fellow in particular, he's down in southern Ontario, and a couple times a year he volunteers to literally like, what would you call it? Like hop from airport to airport, and he'll make multiple stops and he'll collect all the turtles that are in our care.
So cool.
So Guelph Airport, he'll land there. He always tells me I'm going to land at XYZ time. I meet him there. He literally taxis right up to my car.
Yeah.
We put turtles in his plane, and then he moves on to the next. And so by the time he gets to Peterborough, he's got like 20, 30, 40 turtles in his plane. And the first time I met him, I don't even know how many turtles I sent with him that time, but there was a snapping turtle, medium size, like small dinner plate. And I always put my turtles in cardboard boxes with air holes that I get from your lovely son, who collects them all for me.
Yes.
Anyway, and they're taped shut, like they're secure. Anyway, I guess he landed and they started unloading the boxes, and one box was empty. And there was a big hole clawed through the side of the box.
Yeah.
And the turtle was under the pilot's seat, and it was a snapping turtle.
Yeah.
So now whenever he sees me, he's like, they better be secure. And I'm like, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yeah. Rubbermaid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on that note, if I get bit by a snapping turtle,
Yeah.
okay, I'm trying to move one. What do I do? Do they just latch on and that's it?
Pretty sure.
So how would I get one of those?
I
off
don't
me?
know.
Really?
I don't know if you have a water bottle, maybe like, so when I got bit by a painted turtle, and it hurt like a bugger, and it was just the tiniest little thing, but he would not let go. And what finally worked, it was like 5-10 minutes later, is I was in my mudroom. So we have a laundry sink.
Yeah.
So I turned on the tap and just kind of gently poured some water over his shell. And that distracted him enough that he loosened his grip, and I was able to rip my finger out of his mouth.
But other
It
than
hurt.
that, that's it.
I don't
Like,
know. I've
there's
never
no-
been bit by a snapper.
There's no pressure point or like pull the tail and the mouth opens or anything like that.
You might be able to stick your finger up their bum.
Yeah.
And get them to let go. I think that works. I think my friend told me that works. Or it gets them to put their head out.
This is just a big joke here for Dr. Graham.
Yeah.
She's going to tell you that, but it really doesn't do anything.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll let you know when I get bit. And
Yeah.
we can do another interview and I'll tell you all about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, we're going to close with that.
Sure.
Very interesting life here. Like I mentioned before, Dr. Graham's husband, Tim, is, dairy. He's an interesting character as well. So you've got your mobile vet service. We've got the mobile euthanasia service that you work for. And then, of course, your what would you call that? Your when you go out in portage and
Canoe tripping,
Just-
backcountry.
just your backcountry
backcountry
trips.
canoe tripping, yeah.
So those other items are another podcast in itself.
I know, right? I have a
And-
couple of obsessions.
Yes. But I think it's kind of neat because I think everybody else out there, like, in today's age, we like, I mean, you get so involved in work and you've got family that you don't really take much time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important that, like, with all the stuff you're doing, you can still take off and, I mean, basically shut your phone off. Like, you probably got real fidgety at the start, eh? Like, what do you do without your phone?
Oh, no, I love it.
Yeah?
I used to I would leave my phone in a car until a couple years ago because I'm like, I don't even want to see it.
Yeah.
But now I take it just for emergencies.
Yeah. So, but it is nice. It gives everybody else out there, I mean, some of these hobbies that are there, I mean, like, to me, I look at that canoe trip and that's like survivalist stuff. Like, that's like,
It's pretty cushy. I bring wine.
yeah, I guess so.
It's a princess trip.
Yeah?
But, yeah.
Well, that's not my idea of a princess trip. It wouldn't be my wife's, that's for sure. So thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we appreciate all the information. But right now, no one's going to call you directly.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. You
They're
contact
gonna-
the Turtle Center.
They're going to contact the Turtle Center.
Correct.
And then you may run into Dr. Graham. You may not.
You probably will. I'm usually around. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.